Hi everyone, I think I'm live. I've got a monitor down here so I can see whether I'm live or not, and it appears that I am. So also, could you please, because I'm checking out a new microphone system, just give me a thumbs up or something to say that in actual fact you can hear me. Can you hear me? Oh yes, good. 3 thumbs up, I guess, that you can actually hear me. Great, fantastic. We are checking out new technology for us to be able to do our, thanks Joe, that's fantastic. Hey, how was your house move? I know you're moving at the moment, so that's fantastic. Hi Claire, that's good news too. So, yeah. So tonight's Facebook Live, it was actually Sally's idea, was around doing the NLP presuppositions. And I can't do all of those in one session. So we're going to go through those. I'm going to do Facebook Lives on the NLP presuppositions over the next couple of weeks. It'll probably take at least 5 or 6 weeks for me to go through the major ones. They are grouped in. So for those of you that aren't aware of NLP presuppositions, which I know some of you won't be, they are a set of assumptions, a set of convenient beliefs that as an NLP practitioner, master practitioner, trainer, master trainer, we would operate from. We're not saying that they're absolutely true. What we're saying is that they are convenient beliefs that when you operate from these particular beliefs, they tend to get you better results for yourself and also for your clients. So the first one is actually everyone has their own unique model of the world. And it relates to the second one, which I want to do both of them in the same session tonight because you need to really, which is respecting another person's model of the world. So, what does the model of the world mean? Well, I need to I'm going to check out that new technology now, see if it works. So I'm going to bring up a slide. I hope you can see that, and I hope you can see that slide and still hear me. I'm monitoring on my monitor here, and it's my internet connection is not that great. So, anyway, let's carry on. Please give me a thumbs up if you can see the slide and you can hear my voice, or just put a comment in. Brilliant, thanks Claire. So here's the one of the fundamental models which you cover on the first day of any NLP training, which is the NLP communications model, which you've got there that you've got the external event, which is anything that's going on outside of you. And, you know, in the old days of NLP, we used to say that you were receiving 2 million bits of information every second. Now we're saying it's 12 million bits, though that could well be an underestimate. So you're receiving a huge amount of information, whether it's 2 billion or 12 million, you know, it really doesn't matter. And then your nervous system, or from a hypnosis point of view, or from an NLP point of view, your unconscious mind filters this information that's coming in, and it deletes, it distorts, and it generalizes. It comes through your beliefs, it comes from your previous experiences, it comes through all of those kind of filters, if you like, almost like you're wearing a pair of sunglasses that filters things, and then you become aware of your internal representation, the pictures, the sounds, the feelings, the smells, the tastes, the self-talk that you're aware of right now. And, you know, if I was to say to you, stop right now, and go inside? Are you seeing pictures, hearing sounds, feeling feelings, smelling smells, tasting tastes, talking to yourself? Then my guess is that you would be. That's your internal representation. Now, here's the thing with this particular model is that all you can ever be aware of is your internal representation. You can never experience the external event, only ever the internal representation. So what you're experiencing right now is your internal representation of my Facebook Live. I can see we've got 7 people watching at the moment. We've got 12 thumbs up. Normally on my Facebook Lives we'll get something like 1,000 to 2,000 viewers over time, not necessarily live, but over the recorded one. What that means is that there are between 1,000 and 2,000 different versions, different models of my Facebook Live taking place at each point in time, because every single one of you, as you're sitting there right now, listening to me, looking at this particular slide, are deleting, distorting, and generalizing it in different ways. That's what we mean by a model. So everything is a model. I'm just about to go back to, so you can see me. Hey, welcome back. I don't want you looking at that slide for the entire time. So, this is an interesting thing. What I have is my model of what my trainer's model of NLP was. And his model was the model that was the person who taught him, which happened to be Richard Bandler, but it's just a model. And everything is a model. Everything you experience, therefore, from the NLP communications model is a model. So NLP is a model. It's not true. It's not the way it really is. It's a model. Hypnosis is a model. Timeline therapy is a model. Mental emotional release is a model. Huna is a model. Medicine is a model. Science, as we know it, is a model. Quantum physics is a model. Quantum physics actually is probably the most honest one out of the lot that actually says that it's a model, thanks to the observer effect. So everything that we have, every religion on the planet is a model. And the question as to whether that model is actually right or wrong, true or false, good or bad, it is irrelevant. The thing is, it's a model. It's not real. And, I've got to tie this in now with the next presupposition of NLP, which is respect everybody's model in the world. So we've got that everybody has different models, depending upon the religion that you adopt, you have a different model. There are people who go like, the only way to be totally healthy is vegan. The only way to be totally healthy is keto. The only way to be totally healthy is what's the one where you fast for 2 days, 5-2, whatever it is, These people accept this model. And they go, but this is the way it is. It's real. No. What I'm saying is it's a model. Medicine is a model. Doctors accept a model. There are people that go, no, medicine is totally big pharma, all this kind of thing is evil, dirty, nasty. It's a model. It's not true. It's not real. It's just a model. So what we're really talking about is whether a model works for you or not. That's the important thing. So there's no right or wrong model. There's no good or bad, no, just or unjust. It's just a model of the world. It's all we've got to work with. That was my model. That was my understanding when I first came into NLP. And it was massively freeing. And I've been working with it and extending it ever since. So, here's a personal experience. Probably about 20 years ago, I wanted to lose weight. And I got this belief that came up that the only way that I could lose weight was if I had a Nordic track cross-country ski machine, if you remember those things. So, you would go from an NLP point of view, I can only lose weight if I have a Nordic track cross-country ski machine. I would say that's a limiting belief. So you've got a number of choices with that. You can get rid of that limiting belief with some adaptive belief change. You can get rid of that belief with timeline therapy or mental emotional release techniques. Brilliant. Then you can get fit in any way that you want to. Though I went, well, why not use that belief and actually not see it as a limiting belief, but actually use it as an empowering belief? So what I did was I bought a Nordic track ski machine, which I loved. I used it all the time. And guess what? It worked. I lost weight. So this is what I mean by models of the world. That's all you've got. So let's talk about respecting models of the world, because I think it's really important at the moment. In the world that we look out at, there are very, very, very different models of the world operating. You can see them every day in the news. So from an NLP point of view, what we've got is that all that people have is a model of the world. No right, no wrong, whether they be a Muslim, a Hindu, a Christian, a Buddhist. It doesn't matter. It's their model of the world. And if that model of the world works for them, then fantastic. If it doesn't, then we can assist people in changing their model of the world. Though the important thing is the second one, which is this: respecting other people's model of the world. You've got to get the first one first to get the second one, because we all have a different model of the world depending on our life, our experiences, how we've been brought up, the school we went to, our family, the culture, the part of the world, all of those kind of things. In our very, very early days, Maurice Massey would say within the first 7 to 10 years actually is what creates our values and our beliefs, which is a major filter for our model of the world. So there are very, very different models of the world on the planet today. What respect other people's model of the world actually says is to realize that people have other different models of the world from you, potentially dramatically different models of the world from you. I have met people that had such significantly different models of the world from me that I was left going, wow. But thanks to my teaching in NLP, I went, how did you get that model of the world? I got really curious about it because I respected it. So, a couple of things on respect. Respect isn't agreeing with somebody else's model of the world. There are people around that I meet on a day-to-day basis, that I see in the news, on Facebook, everywhere else, that I don't agree with their model of the world. That's okay. Totally okay. And respect it means it's their model of the world. It might not be yours. It's their model of the world. Who knows what they went through, what they experienced to have this particular model of the world at this particular point in time. If it works for them, then that's fine. If it doesn't work for them, then we can work with them around changing their model of the world. I would say that, models of the world, a model of the world works, and works for a person if it works for them. If it's causing harm to somebody else, then, we've got a little bit of a question to have there, so where it becomes a bit of a grey area. Though everybody's on the receiving end of somebody else's model of the world. I had a really bizarre experience. I share this in my trainings. I don't normally share it publicly because it would be seen as being probably too contentious. I think with the Robbins thing that's been going on with the Me Too, again, models of the world. Tony's got a model of the world. The lady had a model of the world. People watching that had a model of the world, and it's kind of like blown up out of all proportion. It's interesting that I actually went through that video with a fine-tooth comb, and I can't actually find where Tony actually said the things that he's being accused of, but there we go. But models of the world. Now, when you go, everybody's got their unique model of the world. There's no right or wrong model of the world, and you respect other people's model of the world, then life actually becomes a lot easier. So I had an interesting experience. This was years and years ago. Must have been in the mid-90s, something like that. And I'd gone to this seminar this weekend, this workshop, spiritual development workshop. And I'd gone with some friends of mine, Brad Meyer and Tracy O'Connor. We went to this workshop. It's about 100 people there. It was a psychodrama workshop. I couldn't believe how many people there were there to work on being abused when they were younger. I'd not come across that. That wasn't in my model of the world at that point in time, and it became a big thing in my model of the world that weekend. And so people were working on that. They were releasing their negative emotions on it. It was a fantastic weekend. It was great. It was a really great experience for me. But then this guy stands up, like on the last afternoon. I remember it very, very clearly. Big guy. He was big guy. He's probably like 6'5", 6'7", something like that, wearing a duffel coat with a big beard. And he goes, "You've all got this totally wrong. Parents have a responsibility to physically beat their children to wake them up, because when they are born, they are dead to the world, and they need to be beaten to wake them up." Well, you can probably guess the reaction in the room. I'm thinking this guy's not going to walk out alive. I'm going like, whoa. But you see, I got the NLP presuppositions. I look at the guy and goes, that's an interesting model of the world. I wonder how you got that. And, there were obviously a number of attacks and all that kind of stuff going on to him. There were some obvious questions. The first question was, do you have children? To which he said, yes, I do. I have 3. Then, obviously, the next question is, did you or do you beat them? And he says, yes. Well, you can probably imagine the energy in the room at this particular point in time. Now, do I agree with that model of the world? Absolutely not. Not in any way, shape or form. And was it this guy's model of the world? I looked at him and I went, this guy's not bullshitting. This guy, in some way, shape or form, has come to the point where he actually believes this is true. Not only is it a positive intention for him in beating his children, in his model of the world, it's actually positive for his children. Can you get that? You might need to think about this for a while, because this is an extreme example. I'm going to share an extreme example with you, because I think it's the extreme examples where we really get our learnings from. This guy's model of the world. This guy, a lot of people, evil, nasty, whatever. No, this guy actually, and I looked at his physiology. I'm good at that. I absolutely knew 100% that he completely, totally and utterly believed that what he was doing was the right thing. It's not the right thing as far as I'm concerned. It's probably not the right thing as far as you're concerned. But he believed that. That was his model of the world. And as you start to experience these kind of things, you'll realize that people have very, very different models of the world from you. That's not the problem. The issue is, one, realizing that people have different models of the world. And you don't have to agree with them. I don't agree with lots of people's models of the world. It's respecting them for what they are. That's the way that they experience the world. It's very different from you. And I had some, when I really got that, and I think it was not from my NLP training, not really from my HUNA training. It was from a time that I got to spend, a very privileged time that I got to spend with somebody I would take as being one of my mentors. I might even say guru, though he would hate that. I got to spend an afternoon with Stuart Wilde. And to cut a long story short, what came up was I was actually having a negative take on somebody's model of the world. And that was homeless people. I I thought it was bad. I thought it shouldn't happen. And I'd moved to London and, where I'd lived before, Nottingham, Mansfield, Macclesfield, Manchester. At the time I did, there were not that many homeless people. And so I moved to London, lots of homeless people. And I just happened to mention this to Stuart. And he's quite aggressive. That's my model of the world. Actually, no, he wasn't. He's confrontational. Confrontational. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to say that what these people are going through at this particular point in time is wrong? You don't know them. You don't know where they are on their path. You don't know what their purpose is and all that kind of stuff. And I was well and truly put in my place. So I used my techniques of NLP and MER and timeline therapy and let my stuff go. And I remember being a summer in a outside a pub in Acton, and this lady walked up to me. I can only describe her as the bag lady. One of those ones with all of her worldly belongings, including lots and lots of newspapers, and their red and white and blue bags. Comes up to me and she says, "Can I have 30p, please?" And I said, "Is that what you really want?" And she goes, "Not really." I said, "Well, what do you really want?" She said, "I want a cup of tea." I said, "Is that what you really want?" She said, "Not really, no." I said, "So what do you really want?" She says, "I want a can of Carlsberg Special Brew." I said, "Okay. Is that what you really want?" She goes, "No, I want 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew." For those of you outside of the UK, Carlsberg Special Brew is a very, very strong lager beer, about 9 to 10%, something like that, rocket fuel. And so she said she wanted 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew. So I said, "So what do you really want then?" I said, "How much is 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew?" She goes, £2. So I said, "So what do you really want?" She goes, "I guess I want £2. So I'd got no change. I gave her a £20 note. So go get yourself 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew. And bring me the change. So she wanders off. I was with my girlfriend at the time, Caroline, and she goes, "Are you mad? Do you seriously think you're going to get that money back?" And I went "Actually, I do. And if I don't really care. It'll come back to me somewhere else from the universe." But lo and behold, 5 minutes later, the lady shows up with her bags and the carrier bag with 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew and strikes up a conversation. And she starts telling me about how she wound up being in the situation she was in, living on the street. And I'm quite good at conversational change and reframing things, and also, obviously my Huna techniques. So I had a chat with her for 15, 20 minutes. After 15, 20 minutes, she left with a big beaming smile on her face. Now, whether that's because I'd actually enabled her to get a different viewpoint on her life, as in changed her model of the world, maybe. Or maybe she was just looking forward to drinking 2 cans of Carlsberg Special Brew. The thing is, when you get people have unique models of the world and you respect people's models of the world, you don't care which one of those two it is. The lady walked off with a smile on her face. That is the most important thing. Whereas I would have gone, "You shouldn't be living on the street. You shouldn't be drinking Carlsberg Special Brew. You shouldn't be, should. I had a later experience when I was running a seminar for, here's the bizarre thing. I wind up doing a seminar for homeless people. Can you believe that? I can't. I don't think that would have happened if I hadn't changed my model of the world, and respecting other people's model of the world. And this guy comes up to me in the first break, and his name was David as well. And I said, "So, hi, David. How are you?" "I'm okay." Where did you come in from today? Trafalgar Square. Oh, really? Is that where your station is? No, I live there. I went, you live in Trafalgar Square? He goes, yeah, I live in Trafalgar Square. What a cool place to live. So central. What a great address. He goes, yeah, it's okay. And I said, so how are you finding the seminar so far? And he goes, I don't want to be here. I said, why not, David? He said, well, people tell me that I should get a job, I should get a flat, I should get a house. He said, I don't want a job. I don't want to live in a house. I just want to live in the forest with the animals. And again, I'm looking at this guy and I'm pretty good at calibrating, physiology and stuff. It was totally true. That's what he wanted. That was his model of the world. And I said to David, look, in a couple of minutes I'm going to put the music on and we're going to rejoin. We're going to start the seminar again. But there's a door over there. It's open. I'm not going to say anything. That was the last time I saw David. That's the really wonderful thing that you've got when you realize everything is a model of the world and you respect other people's model of the world. You let them do their thing. If their model of the world works for them, great. If they come to you and their model of the world doesn't work for them, then we can assist them in changing it. But it's not moving from a wrong model of the world to a right model of the world. It's just a model of the world. That's why I love the presuppositions of NLP. And, as I said before, everything is a model. Medicine is a model. Huna is a model. Science is a model. Everything is a model. So I hope that your model of my model of the NLP model of the world presupposition has been useful for you tonight. If it hasn't, then don't watch it, or just change it and watch it again. See you next week. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to my Thursday night's Facebook Live. Though probably you're aware that this actually isn't live. As a reason for that, I worked out that at 7 o'clock this evening, which is the time my Facebook Live normally goes out, I would actually be in the air somewhere between London and Amsterdam, as I'm speaking tomorrow at Sammy Blindell's Brand Builders Workshop in Utrecht, which I'm very excited about. But just so that you'd actually got something to watch this evening, because I know a lot of you are regular viewers, then I thought what I'd do is film something before I left. So here we are. So as I mentioned last week, what I'm doing is a series of Facebook Lives on the presuppositions of NLP. And just to explain why I believe the presuppositions of NLP are so important, let me just show you one of the slides from our practitioner training. Is that, the NLP presuppositions are the underpinning foundations of what makes NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, mental emotional release work. So they're very important. And quite a famous hypnotherapist by the name of Andre Weitzenhofer said of the field of hypnotherapy and hypnosis that the client has the uncanny knack of reading the mind of the hypnotherapist and making the hypnotherapist's beliefs come true. Which is, what he's basically saying with that is, if you went to see a hypnotherapist and this hypnotherapist fundamentally believed that it wasn't possible for somebody to stop smoking as a result of doing hypnotherapy, then the client would not get the result they wanted, as in stopping smoking, with that hypnotherapist. If they then went down the road and saw another hypnotherapist who totally believed it was possible for somebody to stop smoking as a result of hypnotherapy, even if they did the same induction, even if they did the same suggestions, the client would get the result with hypnotherapist number 2, whereas they didn't with hypnotherapist number 1. Now, we can take that and broaden it out into the field of NLP, hypnosis in general, and also timeline therapy, mental emotional release, even Hawaiian Huna. And remembering perception is projection, your client has the uncanny knack of reading your mind and then making what you believe come true for you and therefore for them. So this is why the presuppositions are so important. They are a set of convenient beliefs which, when we act as if those beliefs are true, enable us to get the best possible result with the person that we're using NLP, hypnosis, hypnotherapy, timeline therapy, mental emotional release, and Huna with. So that's why they're so fundamentally important, and also the reason why we need to understand them. So what I want to talk about briefly this evening is the map is not the territory. And the reason why I picked that one is because when I'm doing my practitioner trainings, and people have done the pre-study for the practitioner training from the app, there's a whole CD on the presuppositions in detail, which is available from davidshepard.com if you look at the link at the top there. And, I ask people questions. What's your favorite presupposition of NLP from the pre-study? And why is it your favorite? And people share their favorites and why it's made such a major difference in their lives. Then when we've done that for a little while, I then say, okay, so is there any presupposition that anybody's not totally understanding yet, or can't totally understand how you'd fit the presupposition to a particular context or situation? And pretty much virtually on every single practitioner training, one of the presuppositions that people go, I haven't got this one yet, is the map is not the territory. So what I thought was we'll do that one this evening. So to give you a little bit of history, the map is not the territory originally comes from Alfred Korzybski. And Alfred Korzybski, in his book Science and Sanity, which was published in 1933, I believe, he actually set up the Institute of General Semantics in Chicago in 1933. He says in the book, for the study of general semantics, non-Aristotelian thinking, and neuro-linguistics, which is interesting, isn't it? That book was written, published in the 1930s, and it has that term neuro-linguistics in it. And one of the things that Korzybski says in there is he says that the map is not the territory. So if you remember the slide that we looked at last week, and my slide's not changing, just a second. There we go. The slide that we looked at last week, the NLP communications model, and one that I've actually explained in detail in previous Facebook Lives, is what we've got the external event. That's the information which is streaming into our nervous system. In the early days of NLP, it was estimated that we received something like 2 million bits of information per second. Recent advances in neuroscience have expanded that to now 12 million bits of information, 10 million just through our eyes, another 2 million coming through a sense of hearing, touch, smell, and taste. Is streaming into our nervous system every single second of the day, whether we're awake or asleep. Whether we take it as 2 million bits or 12 million bits, it's a huge amount of information. And as I explained last week, so that we can just deal with that huge amount of information, then what our nervous system does, or what we might say from hypnosis or hypnotherapy, or even certain schools of NLP, is that our unconscious mind receives all of this information and it filters that information. It deletes some of it. So, the classic one that we normally say is that you're probably not aware of the feeling of your right shoe on your right foot until I pointed it out to you. Then I've just realised I'm not actually wearing the right shoe, but there you go. Maybe you are. But what's my unconscious mind doing? It's going like, does David need to know what's happening in his right foot for him to be able to do this Facebook Live? Answer, no. So let's delete it. So we're deleting information all the time. We're distorting information, which is where we actually take that information and we make it into something that it's not. One of the examples I use on my app in the NLP Practitioner Home Study Program is, moving to this house in the first place. First night it was here, middle of the night, the burglar alarm goes off. Of course, you have big fear, big start. Somebody's broken into the house. Get my courage up, fire off my resource anchors, go downstairs to find that there's the alarm system says there's an error in one of the sensors in one of the rooms. So we reset it, it's fine. Logically, rationally, sensibly, I know that actually is not a burglar, but I still had to check all the rooms, make sure the doors were locked, make sure the windows were closed, look under all the beds, checking the wardrobes, etc. before going to bed. And even though I knew that there was nobody else in the house, every single sound I heard that night, I went, did I check everywhere? So that's an example of a distortion. Then we have generalizations. Generalizations are basically how we simplify information. So this is where, for instance, you can go to a hotel for the first time and there's a door on the front of this hotel. You've never been through that door before. You've never opened that door before, but you don't have to work out how to use it, how to open that door from first principles. We can do that from our generalizations, our rules that we have for doors. So we are filtering that information all the time before we create our internal representation, which you can see there on the left-hand side of the slide. The internal representation is what you're experiencing right now. You have an internal representation of this Facebook Live. It's not actually what's coming to you from the computer. It's not actually, or your phone or your iPad. It's not actually what I'm sending into my computer at this particular point in time. It's your deleted, distorted, and generalized version of it. So we have what I was referring to last week. Your internal representation is your model of the world. What we're saying here from a Korzybskian point of view is that your model of the world, your internal representation, is a map of the territory. It's not actually the territory, it's your personal map of it. And as we mentioned last week, the only way that we can actually create a map, a model, is through the process that we've just outlined, which means, some of my videos here get, 1,000, 2,000 or more views. What that means is that there's 2,000 or 3,000 maps of my Facebook Live. The only thing I'm absolutely sure about is nobody else's map is exactly the same as the map that I have for this Facebook Live at this particular point in time. So we've got the map and the territory. Now, in actual fact, if we looked at it from Korzybski's point of view, then actually what Korzybski said was when he was referring to the map, what he was actually talking about was words, the linguistics. So as you'll see from the slide there, what we've got there is there's the internal representation, the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic, the olfactory, what we can smell, the gustatory, what we can taste, which is our experience. It's not actually what's happening outside, it's our experience of that. And then we take our experience and we put words, auditory, digital, as a label to our experience. So the words, actually, if we looked at it from an NLP point of view, the words are a map of the territory. Let me say that again. Your words are a map of the territory. So they're twice removed. So the words are not what they represent. there's a nice little story of, let's say, some aliens came to planet Earth for the first time, and they'd managed to get, let's say, £1 million or dollars worth of gold with them. And they say to you, you can have this £1 million, $1 million, €1 million of gold if you can describe to us exactly what it's like to eat an orange in a way that we actually have the experience of eating an orange without actually eating an orange. And there's $1 million, pounds, euros on the line here. So obviously you're up for that. So you go, okay, so eating an orange, well, it's kind of orangey, kind of zesty, citrusy. And obviously the aliens just aren't getting it, and they get back on their spaceship and leave with their £1 million, dollars, or euros of gold. Because the word is not the experience. Other times when you've had this experience is, let's say you've had the most amazing dream, and you want to tell somebody about this amazing dream, and you say, wow, I had an amazing dream last night. And it just won't fit into the words. This experience, this amazing dream just doesn't fit. So, and then you've managed to shoehorn this experience into the words, and it just doesn't seem amazing anymore. Because the words are a map of the experience, not the actual experience. Or, this is the kind of thing you have when you have one of those, I guess you just had to be there experiences. If something's happened during the day, you go home, you're talking to your, whoever's in the house, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends, or whatever, and you'll go, you never guess what happened today. Well, this person did this, and he said this to this person did this, whatever. And the other person's going, right, okay, good for you. And then you say to them, I guess you just had to be there. So what Korzybski was saying is that the words are not the experience that they represent. The words can't be. No matter what you think it is, it isn't. No matter who you think you are, you're not. You're always more than that. So that's just the way the words work. It's the way our internal representations work, and the way that our nervous system or our unconscious mind takes the territory, what's happening outside, creates a map of it, our internal representation, and then we go and put a label onto that map of the experience. It's just the way that we work. And everything's fine with that, that's okay, as long as people realize that the words are not the experience they represent, but also from an NLP point of view, that our experience isn't actually the external event, isn't the territory. Where things can go a little bit awry, where things can go wrong, is when people actually believe that their experience is the territory rather than a map. As in, they believe it's not their model of the world, this is true, this is actually the way that it is. And these are things that when we work with people, we can assist them in releasing those kind of ideas and therefore changing their experience. Because I mentioned in a previous Facebook Live, when somebody comes to work with you, for instance, if somebody comes to us in Fix My Mind, and they have a particular experience in their past, which is causing them a problem, they think that the problem is actually outside of them. I was just speaking to a private client this morning who has nerves and anxiety about presenting. And, the majority of people believe that the problem is having an audience in front of you, that you're about to do a presentation. And I had him access when this particular problem started, and he told me, and I said, okay, so as you think about that event right now, on a scale of 0 to 10, what's the emotional level? And I can't remember what he said now. I think he said 7. So, but, so he's having the emotion inside. This isn't happening right now. This is something that happened years ago. And he's got no audience in front of him. So immediately what you've got is the problem is not the external event. It's not the audience. It's not the presentation. It's the map of that, or the internal representation of that, or the model of that. As soon as people start to realize that the map is not the territory, then we can work with them using NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, mental emotional release, HUNA techniques to enable them to change the map and get a map that works for them. That is what we're talking about with the map is not the territory. Let me just bring me back again. Whoa, there we're back, instead of looking at the slides. So that's what the map is not the territory means. And, it's a very, very important one, because unless somebody realizes that the map is not the territory, their experience that they're having right now isn't the territory, if they don't realize that, or they're not willing to accept that particular presupposition, then there's nothing we can do to change it. If somebody had had a traumatic event in their life, then we can't change that. We can't change this thing that happened in the past. We can't change that traumatic event. But in actual fact, fortunately, the problem is not the traumatic event. The problem is the person's map of that traumatic event. Now, we can change the map. As soon as the person changes the map, then their response to that event in the past changes. Their emotional response to it changes. And you know that that's happened because the words that they use to describe it also change. So this is how, as an NLP practitioner, master practitioner, trainer or master trainer, we know, one of the ways that we know that the person's map has changed is, one, we see their physiology change. But equally, when we say to them, so help me out, what was the problem again? They tell you what the problem was, and their language has changed. So then we know that the map of the territory has changed. So that's what the map is not the territory means, as far as my map of the map is not the territory. That's my version of it. So I hope that was useful. I shall be picking another presupposition of NLP for next Thursday's Facebook Live, which actually will be live because I will be here back in the UK, so I can be with you in person right at that moment in time. But I thought what I'd do is film this one so that you've got something to watch this evening. Have a great evening, morning, whatever it is, wherever you are in the world. I'm really looking forward to seeing you, some of you in Utrecht tomorrow on Sammy Blindel's brand building workshop. Also some of others of you on Sunday at the same workshop when I do it in Heathrow. So have a fantastic rest of day, and I will see you here next week. Good evening, everybody, or rather I should say, depending on where you are in the world. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to my Facebook Live. Let me just turn the volume down on my monitor here, otherwise you're going to hear a bit of an echo. You're going to hear a bit of an echo behind me. So, great to see you. As I said, what I'm going to be covering over this week and probably into next week, maybe the next. Hi, Deborah. Great to see you. They're in Las Vegas, I think. And I've been covering the NLP Presuppositions. And we're going to continue doing that this evening. I've got 4 presuppositions grouped together, which is all about the person's behavior. And, as I said before, the thing to be aware of is that this is my model of the world on the presuppositions of NLP. So you will find that there are other people in other parts of the NLP world that have a different model of the world than I do. We have to respect those models of the world, as in, from an NLP presupposition point of view, there's no right model of the world or a wrong model of the world, it's just a model of the world. So we're going to switch now so I can show you the slide, because I think this is working quite well, showing you the slides these days. Now we've got the kind of like technology to do that. But I've managed to work it so that you can also still see me rather than just hear me talking behind the slide. So we've got 4 presuppositions that are related to behaviours. Hi Sally, good to see you. They are: people are not their behaviour. Hi Remco. The meaning of all behaviour is dependent upon the context it appears in. The most important information about a person is how that person is behaving. And all behaviour has a positive intention. I've got a feeling that some of my Facebook Lives so far on presuppositions have been a little bit contentious, if not even controversial. I think this evening's is probably going to follow the same kind of vein. So let's look at that first one. People are not their behaviour. So what we're saying there is what the person is doing is not who they are. So if somebody's doing a behaviour which isn't getting the kind of result that they want, that isn't who they are. It's just what they're doing at this particular point in time. So we don't need to change the person. We don't need to change who the person is. All we need to do is to assist them in changing their behaviour. But I want to take that a step further this evening. Because then, what is a behaviour? And I think we need to separate out, taking this further, separating out behaviour from identity. We seem to be living in a world at the moment of what we call, from an NLP point of view, nominalizations. We're taking behaviours, we're nominalizing them, we're freezing them in time and turning them into a noun. So, as an example, let me just explain that. I've heard people say to me, "I'm a slow learner," as in, I, the person, is a slow learner. Now, what we'd say here is that they are a person who is doing the behaviour of learning slowly. Now, the great thing with behaviours is that somebody could stop doing one particular behaviour and start doing another one. So, therefore, what we can do, separating the behaviour from the person, we can say that the person is doing a particular behaviour which is causing them not to learn as quickly as they would like to. We can teach them a new behaviour so that then they can actually do the process of learning quickly. Here's another one that I hear. And I heard it last night, actually. I'm dyslexic. So, again, the important thing we've got to realise here with the presuppositions of NLP, these aren't true. They're useful beliefs that when we adopt these beliefs, act as if they're true for ourselves and for other people, then people can get better results. So what if we had it that they were a person that was doing the behaviour of dyslexia? What that would then mean is that they could stop doing the behaviour of dyslexia and start doing a different behaviour of being able to read and write perfectly. Here's one I heard quite a lot on our veterans programs. I'm just an angry person. I'm angry. Now, what we've got is a person who is doing the behaviour of anger. So again, we can once you put it into that particular frame, we don't need to change the person. In fact, it's not really a presupposition of NLP, but I would have it that all people are magnificent, all people are perfect. And so, we don't have to change the person because they're magnificent, they're perfect. What we would do is work with the person to stop doing the behaviour of anger and start doing the behaviour of happy or calm or balanced or excited or whatever they want to do instead. So this is a very freeing presupposition because it enables us to free ourselves at the identity level from our behaviour, which then gives us the ability to stop doing a particular behaviour and start doing a new behaviour. In Fix My Mind, I'm a smoker. No, you're a person that is doing a particular behaviour of smoking. If you stop that behaviour and do something else, then the whole problem's changed. And equally, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. No, you're a perfect, magnificent person who is doing the behavior of inappropriately using alcohol for whatever purpose, or drugs for whatever purpose, or food for whatever purpose. So that's the first one. Then we have the meaning of all behavior is dependent upon the context it appears in. In fact, we could spread it out even more on that one and actually say all meaning is context dependent. If we take the same event, if we take the same action, if we take the same behavior and move it into a different context, then it has a different meaning. So as an example, it's been quite a nice day here today in London, not quite as hot as it was last week, but it's been around about 14, 15 degrees. So, for a late April day, we would say that's quite a good day. But if we were to take this day and put it into the Caribbean, for instance, and we got on holiday, then we'd be grumpy because this is a cold day. This is terrible weather. Or if we moved the same weather, the same day to Alaska, then we would say we're having a heat wave. Let's get our swimming costumes on and go swim in the sea. It's the same day. So if we look at that from a behavioural point of view, here's an interesting one. Let's take the behaviour of manipulation. Because this came up a lot when I was doing a Selling Magically training for Sammy Blindell's brand builders club at the weekend, and we were looking at how we can use NLP to sell more effectively. And people had a little bit of an issue as to whether what we were talking about doing was manipulative. And my idea of manipulation from an NLP point of view in the world of selling is attempting to use NLP to sell something to somebody that they don't need and want. That, for me, it's not creating a win-win situation. So that, for me, is actually a manipulation. But if we took that same behavior, manipulation, and put it into the context of being a chiropractor, then somebody goes along to see a chiropractor to be manipulated. If you went to see a chiropractor and they didn't manipulate you, you'd be grumpy. But it's the same behavior. Obviously it's a different kind of technique, but it's the same behavior. So it's not the behavior itself that is a problem. It's the context that the behavior is appearing in that becomes the problem. So if we take the same behavior and shift the context, it changes the meaning of that behavior and therefore changes the whole state that comes off of that particular behavior as well. Then we've got the most important information about a person is how that person is behaving. Let's chunk down a little bit on that one. What we're talking about here is that it's not what the person is saying that's the most important information about the person. It's what the person is doing. It's a little bit like that thing, I think it's important when we're a trainer, when we're a coach, when we're a mentor, to actually be in a position where we're saying to our clients, do what I do, not do what I say. As in, the words and our behavior are in alignment and they are congruent. So, where this comes up a lot in coaching and it comes up a lot in therapy is, let's say we were doing timeline therapy or we were doing mental emotional release with somebody. And we said to the person, is it totally okay with your unconscious mind if you'd have an undeniable conscious experience of this sadness disappearing today? And the person goes, yeah, absolutely. So there we've got the words, yes, absolutely, but the behavior is the shaking the head no. Which is more important? Which do we take? Do we take the yes that they say, or do we take the behavior of them shaking their head no? The most important information is actually the head shake of no, and we would need to challenge that with our client. This is something that happens a lot. This weekend I'm doing our Fix Your Mind seminar, really excited about it. Taking a whole group of people through releasing anger, sadness, fear and guilt from events in their past, aligning their values, getting rid of major limiting beliefs and programming their future in a way that it happens. One of my favorite seminars. And, quite often when we're doing that, I ask that question, is it totally okay with your unconscious mind if you'd have an undeniable experience of this sadness disappearing today? Then that's what we get. Yeah, it is. Now, I know from experience that if I've got that and I go with the words, their unconscious mind runs the behavior, see? So their unconscious mind is saying, no, it's not okay. I've got to go with the behavior of no, it's not okay, rather than the words, because the unconscious mind's going to get in the way and sabotage the whole thing. So then, fourth one, all behavior has a positive intention. And I think this one, quite often, the way it's stated brings up some contention for people. That's certainly my experience when I introduced these for the first time on our NLP practitioner certification. And what we're saying here is that, and again, these are convenient beliefs. We're not saying they're absolute truths. And when we treat them as absolute truths, as in act as if they're absolute truths, they tend to enable us to get better results, both for ourselves and for other people. So here we're saying that no matter what the behavior is, no matter how destructive the behavior might appear, no matter how negative the behavior might appear in a particular context, the underlying purpose of that behavior is actually a positive. It's a positive intention. Now, here's the distinction that I think we need to get here. At least for the person doing the behavior. Not necessarily for the person on the receiving end of the behavior, though it may be, but at least for the person who is doing the behavior. I like to tell a little story, and I think it's I tell it in the app on our practitioner home study CDs, where it was a friend of mine, and they had a little boy, about 4 or 5 years old. And what I considered to be a stream almost stopped there, so I'm hoping that we managed to get back again there. I'm just going to check my feed. Yeah, I think it is. That's good. And the carpet was almost white, was almost cream in colour, and Mum comes down one day into the lounge and finds a sandcastle in the middle of the lounge, and she knows immediately who did it. So she calls her son into the room. She's angry, and goes, "Why did you do that?" And just like only a 4 or 5 year old could do, he goes, "Because I love you, Mummy." Now, interestingly, this is the thing about emotions being behavior. How quickly do you think it took her to stop doing the behavior of angry as soon as he very, very, very congruently said, "It's because I love you"? She stopped doing the behavior of anger as fast as that. Yeah. So our emotions are behavior too. That's an interesting distinction, isn't it? Which means that we can let them go. We can stop doing them very, very quickly. Not only in the moment, but also around events in the past. Now, what's the little 4 or 5 year old unconscious mind doing as far as processing this? He wakes up in the morning, he goes, okay, what do I want to achieve today? What's my purpose of the day? And he goes, I want my mummy to know that I love it. And so what he does is he goes, what am I good at? I'm pretty good at building sandcastles at the moment. So he builds a sandcastle. Where am I going to build a sandcastle that my mummy's bound to find it? Great. In the middle of the lounge. So you can see the path of working there. And fortunately, Mummy had been trained in NLP, so she said, an even better way of you letting me know that you love me is actually just to tell me and give me a hug. At which point he goes, okay, Mummy. He goes out to play in the garden and leaving her to clear up the sandcastle. But you see, when we give somebody another way, another option for a better option even, for creating the same positive intention, their unconscious mind will take the better option and will stop doing the previous option. So everything that somebody does, that is do for a positive intention. In actual fact, what they're doing, we'll look at this next week, they're actually doing what they believe, at the unconscious level at least, is the best way of satisfying that intention, even though it might not be satisfying at all. Now, this is an important realization. The unconscious mind can make mistakes, just like that little boy's unconscious mind did. You know, I was working with a client around releasing sadness with timeline therapy, mental emotional release. And I said to him, is it totally okay with your unconscious mind if you have an undeniable conscious experience of this sadness disappearing today? And he went, no, it's not. And I said, well, ask your unconscious mind for what purpose? And his unconscious mind said, protection. Now, immediately there, right at the first level, you've got a positive intention. I said, but it isn't away from. Protection isn't away from. So I said, protection for what purpose? Safety. Great. Even higher level positive intention. Now it's towards. But then I go, and it's your unconscious mind's highest intention and wanting you to be safe. And it goes to be happy. So here's a mistake on the behalf of the unconscious mind. It's saying, I don't want to do the behavior of letting the sadness go for the highest purpose of having me be happy. Of course, when we use our conscious mind and scan that, we go, well, that's not going to work. So I said to his unconscious mind, so wouldn't you be a lot happier if you were to let the sadness go? At which point his unconscious mind realized its mistake and went, okay, yeah, you've got a point there. So then I went, is it now okay for you to let the sadness go? And it said yes. Now I can proceed with the technique. So that's what all behavior as a positive intention means, at least for the person. Now I say at least for the person, because if somebody's doing a behavior which is in a particular context harmful to somebody else, are they doing that for a positive intention? Yes, they are, at least for themselves. Though I think I mentioned in my first Facebook Live an experience that really stretched my model of the world was I met this guy who, in his model of the world, in his map of the world, he believed that it was a parent's responsibility to physically beat their children, because when children are born, they are asleep to the world, and the only way that you can wake them up to the world is to beat them. That was a major stretch for me in Maps of the World, because that's very, very different than mine. And I was looking at him, and I went, he's not doing this to get a reaction. He's not doing this to be controversial. He's not doing this to stir up a riot. He actually believes this. Now, in that person's map of the world, that behavior that in most people's maps of the world would be seen as being inappropriate, would be seen as being disruptive, would be seen as being illegal, in his model of the world was none of those things. And not only did it have a positive intention for him, as in purpose of being a good parent, in that map of the world, he had a positive intention for his children, because as far as in his model of the world was concerned, his positive intention was waking them up to the world. Now, I know that's a stretch model of the world, but one of my things is, and when I do my practitioner training, is I encourage my delegates, my practitioners, to test all of these presuppositions of NLP on extreme examples, and seeing if you can still make them fit. Seeing if you can still use the presuppositions and have these convenient beliefs become, so that you can act as if those beliefs are true. Now, I can remember the first time I got stretched on that was I was doing a practitioner training. I was in my hotel room having breakfast. It's the first morning. I haven't started yet. I know I'm going to be covering presuppositions of NLP that morning. It's the first thing we cover on the practitioner training. And I switch on the TV, and there was an incident in Dunblane, the one up in Scotland, where a guy had gone in with a machete and guns and things and hacked teachers, children, shot them, whatever. Terrible, terrible, terrible incident. And I know that all my delegates are going to be watching that particular incident on their TV before they come to the training. And I'm going to be teaching people are not their behaviours. The meaning of all behaviour is dependent upon the context it appears in. All behaviour has a positive intention. And I'm thinking, am I going to be challenged on this? And of course, I think you probably already know the answer to that is, yes, I am. So I thought, if I can't make the presuppositions fit that particular incident, because of perception's projection, I'm actually going to project the delegate's not going to be able to fit the presupposition of NLP to that incident. So, and I had to work on myself. I really did, because I couldn't, I'm watching it on TV and I can't make this thing fit. But then something popped into my mind, which was that if I'd experienced exactly the same things in my life as that person had, and I had personally generated the same meaning on those events in my life as that person had, and I was in the same personal state that that person was in, could I put my hand on my heart and say, absolutely, I would not do the same thing? And I couldn't. I really couldn't. I couldn't say that I wouldn't. When you really do that and you put yourself into other people's shoes, then it puts a very different context on things. And so then I could actually make the presupposition fit. It was a major learning experience for me. And also I could use that experience with my delegates on that practitioner training and assist them in really getting the presuppositions at a deep level. And, I think that learning took me further on. When I was working with doing the veterans programs, one of the programs we ran was in a high security prison. And we've been told that the delegates on that program were going to be getting out of prison within the next 3 months. And the purpose of the program was to see if putting them through a program very similar to Fix My Mind that we're doing this weekend, that it would reduce reoffending. And when we actually got to the prison, and we welcomed our delegates, we found that the majority of the people that we had were actually going to be in prison for life. We got murderers, we got rapists, we got arsonists, we got all manner of people there. And but obviously they'd gone to this program, the majority of them had gone to, not all of them, but the majority of these programs had gone to that program because they wanted to change their behaviors. So, out of responsibility, if you like, for me and my coaching team, I was honor bound, I was duty bound to work with these people and take them through the processes to enable them to let go of the experiences, or not to let go of the experiences in the past, but change the meaning of the experiences in the past so that they could behave differently in the future. And I don't think I'd have been able to do that if I hadn't have got the presuppositions of NLP. So, just getting back to main camera again. So that's our next batch of presuppositions. You'll notice that they all dovetail in together very nicely. We've got everybody has a unique model of the world, respecting other people's models of the world. Then we looked at the map as not the territory, which is obviously very related to the first two, but also brings in the notion of words and language and internal representations. And then when we bring in the things around behavior, which we've done tonight, we're going into even more detail on the presuppositions. So next week, We will be doing presuppositions again next week. And next week, specifically, we're going to be getting into states. And the whole idea is that there are no unresourceful people, only unresourceful states. But again, that ties in with what we've been covering tonight, because a state is a behavior. It's not a thing. It's not something that we are. So it means, that what we're going to look at, when we look at this in detail next week, because, for instance, fear is a state, then we can let go of that fear. We can stop the fear and do confidence. And we can do it in an instant. It doesn't need time. We can stop something and start something immediately. So those are the presuppositions we're going to do next week. I can see a number of people with us this evening. So thanks for joining me this evening, or probably this morning for you, Deborah, actually out in Las Vegas. For those of you who join after the fact and watch the reviews of the live, then thank you for watching. And please, if you've got any questions about any of the things I've said, or you've got any questions about the presuppositions, either in this video or the previous videos, or you've got a particular situation that you're not finding easy to fit the presuppositions, then please put them into the comments below, and I will put my map, my model on how to fit the presuppositions to that. And I think not only will that help you, but it will also help the other people who watch the video later on, because there'll be lots of people that are struggling with the presuppositions, not finding them easy, but don't actually say anything about it. So thanks for joining me. Have a great rest of the week and a great weekend, beginning of the week next week, and I shall join you next week for looking at states, the presuppositions of states. Bye for now. Okay, hello. Welcome to David Shepherd's Facebook Live. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, or for that matter, what time you're watching this, because I know that we get a lot of people who continue to watch the Facebook Lives throughout the week. So welcome, whatever time you're watching this. I can see some people on here already. Claire, hi Claire. Remco, hi Remco. Magic, great to see you, Magic. Monica, and I can't actually see exactly who's watching on the platform I'm using. So if you give us a thumbs up or put a little comment down there, then I'll know you're watching. I can name check you. Hi Carmel, great to see you. So I've been doing a theme over the last three, and Lisa, hi Lisa, glad you could join us live this time, which is great, on the presuppositions of NLP, which has been fantastically received, which I'm delighted about, to be honest with you, because I think they are the underpinnings of what makes NLP work. So I'm pleased that you're liking them and you're liking my take on them. And it is, as I said in the first one, it is my model of the world. Anna, yes, hi Anna. So you might find people in the NLP world who disagree with me, but there we go. That's fine. I'm fine with that. So we have another set of presuppositions to go through tonight, which are the presuppositions around resources and people. And, I've been reviewing these today and having my latest thoughts on them. And I don't really know if I've got any favorite presuppositions of NLP, but these ones particularly, I think, are very empowering. They're very freeing for people. So let me bring up the slide for you so you can have a look at what we've got there. So the first one, there are no unresourceful people, only unresourceful states. So, what does that mean? I think, again, we've got to put the broader scope on this in that the presuppositions of NLP are never taken as being absolutely true. They are convenient beliefs, which when you adopt them and when you act as if they're true, you get significantly better results for your clients and for yourself too. So there are no unresourceful people, only unresourceful states. So obviously an unresourceful person, if we actually had that someone was unresourceful, then there's not a lot we can do. Whereas if we say that there's no such thing as an unresourceful person, only unresourceful states, then if we enable a person to change their state, which obviously NLP is very good at enabling people to change their state, then that person becomes resourceful. They're resourceful anyway. It's just the state they're in at that particular point in time. And, we talked in a previous Facebook Live about everything being a behavior, not who a person is. So, the difference between identity and behavior. Hi, Tina. Nice to see you. And therefore, we don't need to change the person. We just need to change the state. We just need to change the behavior, which I think is a very, very empowering thing to think about. Now, let's have a look at this second one. Everybody is doing the best they can with the resources they have available to them. I might kind of modify that a little bit by saying everyone is doing the best they can with the resources that they believe they have available to them. That puts a little bit of a different spin on it, because, I was just running our Fix Your Mind seminar this weekend, and one of the big things that we deal with in that is major limiting beliefs. And, if you had a major limiting belief, like, I'm not good enough, then, you could well have some major resources within you that, because you have this belief of I'm not good enough, doesn't enable you to tap into them. So with those kind of things operating, what we've got is the person at this particular point in time is doing the best they can with the resources that they believe that they have available to them. If we were to shift our beliefs about what resources we've got, if we were to work with somebody else to shift their beliefs about what resources they could tap into, then they would get significantly greater results. The thing for this one, though, I think the ultimate thing for me, if you think about it for yourself, if you think about it for other people, it implies forgiveness. Where you are at this particular point in time, no matter what it is that you're doing, you are doing the best you can with the resources that you believe that you have available to you. So that if you were to change your belief, if you were to assist a client in changing their belief about the resources that they had available to them, they would still be doing the best they can, and the results that we're getting would be significantly greater. So I think it removes the blame, the fault, all of those kind of things which we've discussed really in the earlier Facebook Lives, and last week I was at the Yes Group. Some of you might have seen all the crazy pictures of me with various people at the Yes Group last Wednesday, I think it was. And Alan Cleenans was speaking, which is one of the reasons why I went along to see him, as well as Pajouf, one of Tony Robbins' speakers. And Alan said something which, it was a spin on something that, I've said a lot myself, about the idea of peeling back the layers of an onion as we work on ourselves. And somebody had asked him, so Alan, when do we finish peeling back the layers of an onion? And he said, when you die. And then the person asked Alan, well, what happens then? And this is the thing that I absolutely loved. Alan said, you come back as another onion, which I'd never heard that take on it before. I love that. But this is the thing. We're always doing the best we can with the resources we believe we have available to us. We put ourselves into another new challenging situation, and we might feel unresourceful, and yet we change our belief about the resources that we can tap into, and then we become resourceful and we can get the result we want. So that one, that one is probably one of my favorites, if I have favorites. Then, if we put an extra spin on this, everyone has all the resources they need to succeed and to achieve their desired outcomes. So, with these beliefs, it means there is no one at all, that couldn't achieve any outcome, provided they're able to discover within them the resources that they need to use to achieve it. And these are the primary presuppositions I use when I'm coaching someone. Key distinction for me between coaching and mentoring. Coaching is, there's no tell, there's no teach, there's no advise. Coaching is purely asking questions. And the belief that you have in coaching questions, which I teach in the Achievement Coaching Bootcamp, it's also available in the app, Coaching Skills for NLPers, is that people don't need to be told. They don't need to be taught. They don't need to be advised. No matter what their goal is, inside of them deeply, they know the answer. They know the solution. They know what they need to do. It's just they're not able to find it. So my questioning them when I coach them enables them to discover those hidden resources. To be able to coach somebody truly in that way, you've got to operate from these particular first three presuppositions that we're talking about here. And have that firm belief that it's just a matter of asking people questions to actually be able to discover the deep resources within them that will enable them to achieve the result. Now, the final one is kind of related to both these. Just going back onto full screen. Just a second, guys. Bit of a technical hitch. Oh no, there we go. I'm back. Full screen. The final one, I've modified it a little bit in that in traditional NLP, it was taken from the law of requisite variety, which is something, law that comes from systems theory, that said that any part of the system that had the most flexibility controlled the system. That for me kind of went a little bit against the cause and effect, the perception is projection, responsibility for change perspective. Soren, nice to see you, Soren. I just saw you arrive. Thanks for being here. Well, from a responsibility for change, if we totally took that presupposition or the law of requisite variety to be true, then if we were more flexible than another person, it would suggest that we control that other person. And that doesn't really apply for me in NLP, as in, can you get somebody to do something against their beliefs and wishes with NLP and timeline therapy and hypnosis? And my experience is that, no, that's not the case. A great example of that was I was doing a stage show, hypnosis stage show on my master practitioner training, which I do on a regular basis. I actually do on every master practitioner training. And I teach you how to do stage hypnosis on my hypnosis trainers training. One of the classic things is where you have somebody have the number 4 disappear. So you'll say, you know, have the number 4 disappear from your mind, completely disappear from your mind, number 4 will have vanished, completely disappeared. And then you have them count your fingers and they go 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And is that how many fingers I'm supposed to have? No, you're supposed to have 5. Okay, great. Let's count down then. And this is what one of my demonstration subjects did. 5, 3, 2, 1, spare. Great example of the creativity of the unconscious mind. Now, I got one volunteer, one subject on the stage. He's totally up for this. And I give him that suggestion. He's deeply entranced. As soon as I said the number 4 disappear, bam, he's back wide awake and said, no, it won't. Now, of course, in NLP, whenever anybody says that they can't do what you're asking them to do, then you ask them for what purpose. So I said, for what purpose can you not have the number 4 disappear? And he said, I'm an accountant. It's more than my job's worth. That's how you hypnotically create a creative accountant. So if you can't even make something innocuous as the number 4 disappear, how are you going to get somebody to do something that's way beyond those kind of things? So I changed that particular presupposition of NLP, the way it was worded, to be the person with the most flexibility has the greatest influence on other people. So, I like that word influence. It's why I created Masters of Influence. Having an influence over people, being able to influence them to not only change their thinking, and also change their behavior. And in many situations, that's going to require a lot of flexibility on your behalf. Because, as a coach, as a therapist that I do a lot of, you will find clients that if you are less flexible than them, will use all of their flexibility to keep their problem. Whereas what you need to do is to use your flexibility in having them let go of their problem. And, a lot of these things in NLP, I think, remind me of what children naturally do. Children are naturally flexible. They don't have these rigid rules that us as adults have. So they go, right, well, if I don't want to go walking down the street, I'm just going to sit down on the pavement and not go anywhere. As an adult, you would, hi Ad, how are you? Great to see you in the Netherlands. I hope you're back from your travels of Hawaii and Huna, and I think you were off to Thailand or Singapore or somewhere else wonderful after that. So I hope that all went well for you. So we really need to be able to develop flexibility to be able to do things that other people wouldn't actually be okay with. They might think it was a little bit rude. They might think it was a little bit outrageous. They might think it would be a little bit crazy. And though it's giving yourself the permission as a coach, as a mentor, as a speaker, as a presenter, as a trainer, to do those kind of things, to break the rules every now and again, when necessary, to enable somebody to get the result. And any of you who've ever trained with me, you'll know I'm a little bit bonkers and a little bit crazy. So it's actually a useful thing to be able to do that with clients, and also to do that with your audiences as a presenter. So there's our 4 presuppositions of NLP for tonight. I think that's pretty much dealt with the major ones. So that's 4 Facebook Lives. If you want to go through all of them, they're all there on my page if you scroll down. They're also in the group, David Shepherd's Facebook Lives. They're all in there. But also what I've done is, because people were saying to me, what was that one you did on team building? What was that one you did on sales? What was that one you did on Huna? What was that one you did on relationships? Because people are using these videos, which I'm delighted about, as a major resource for themselves. If they're putting together an event for themselves, or they're seeing a client, they want to get some ideas about it. That's exactly what I put these together for. So it's not easy to categorize them in Facebook or in YouTube. So what I've done is I've now created a new menu option in the app, which is available here, davidshepard.com. There you go. And you've now got live training videos. So all the Facebook Lives that I've done, we've been doing them now for well over a year. All of those Facebook Lives are in the app, and all the new ones are uploaded there too. But they're uploaded under category. So if you want to find one that's based on is NLP, it's there. If you want to find one hypnosis, it's there. If you want to find timeline therapy, mental emotional release, it's there. If you want to find a Huna one, it's there. But equally, if you want to find one that's under sales, if you want to find one that's under relationships, if you want to find one that's under health, personal growth and development, then that's all there too. So if you haven't already, then please subscribe. I based it on the Netflix model. So all you need to do is you need to subscribe. You get it for a month for free. You can cancel any time in that month, in which case, if you cancel in the last day of the month, you don't pay anything. Hey, But my thing is around making sure we create so much value for you that you think it's a no-brainer to stay. And after that, you can get it for £67 for an entire year, or $6.99 a month. So check that one out, and I'll see you again next week with a new theme for our Facebook Lives. If you've got a new theme that you would like me to cover, then please let me know. Put something down in the comments on this video, or send me a private message, and I will do my best to cover that particular theme. I want it to be of value to you. If you don't give me anything, then I'll just come up with something myself. I've got loads of ideas. So anyway, have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, depending where you are in the world when you're watching this. We've got a holiday weekend here in the UK. So if you're in the UK and it's a holiday weekend, then have a fantastic weekend. We've got brilliant weather, apparently, which I'm very much looking forward to. And I'll see you again next Thursday at 7 p.m. British Summer Time at the moment, which is 1800 UTC, on Facebook Live. See you again. Bye. Hi everyone, welcome to David Shepherd's Facebook Live. So wherever you are in the world, whatever time you're watching this, good morning, good afternoon, or a good evening to you. And tonight's going to be the final Facebook Live about the presuppositions of NLP. So as I mentioned a couple of times before, and I keep reiterating it every single time, and I think it's important. Hi Carmel. Hi there. Hi Stephen. I don't know if Stephen, you commented a while ago, so I don't know if you actually are watching it now. Who have we got? We've got Anne. We've got Remco. Hi guys. Great to see you here. And to frame up the presuppositions of NLP, and Hamed, how are you? is very much, this is my take on the presuppositions of NLP. So they're kind of like my beliefs about the presupposition of NLP, my model of the world, if you like, on the presuppositions of NLP. So they might differ from other people in the NLP world's idea of them. And also, we're not saying that they're absolutely true. What we're saying is that if they are convenient beliefs, that if we act as if they're true. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you. If we act as if they're true, then we get better results for ourselves and better results for our clients. And Sally's here too. Hi, Sally. And so we've got 4 to look at this evening. Let's just have a look at them briefly, and then we'll go through them in detail. So here they are. We've got there is no failure, only feedback. Everyone is in charge of their mind and therefore their results. Resistance in a client is a sign of a lack of rapport. And the meaning of communication is the response you get. Very powerful presuppositions, these, both for use in our personal life and also for use in business, and we'll talk about those specifically. So let's have a chat about the first one. There is no failure, only feedback. So what that really is based on is that whenever we do anything, we always get a result. The question is it the result that we want, or did we get a result other than the one that we wanted? We always get a result, though. And what many people immediately do if they get a result, which is something different than the one that they wanted, the one that they intended, they consider that to be a failure. Whereas what we're saying is, no, you've got a result. You can use that result as feedback to modify what you do next time. Next time you go to get the particular goal you're going for. Whereas a lot of people go, I failed, and then they give up. So what we're saying is you do something, you get a result. If it's the result you want, fantastic. If it's not the result you want, provided you use that result that you got as feedback, that's also fantastic. So, you might have heard the Edison and the light bulb story. It's very, very much used in the personal development world, the personal development industry. As in, he succeeded after around about 10,000 attempts at making a light bulb work. And a journalist came to him before he'd managed to succeed and said to him, how do you manage to cope with that amount of failure in your life? And Edison apparently said, I haven't failed. I've just found 9,990 something ways of making a light bulb not work. There is some backstory to that, which you may or may not have heard. He actually attempted to make a light bulb out of peanut butter, which may sound a little bit crazy, but the reason he did that was so he could cross it off his list as a way of making a light bulb not work, because he said he'd be really annoyed if he went, there's no way you can make it work make one out of peanut butter, and then somebody down the road successfully did it. Another story as well is that, he got a friend of his in the laboratory. He built a new light bulb. He flicked the switch, and he blew up the entire laboratory, nearly killed himself and his friend. And as they dragged themselves out of the rubble, Edison immediately went for his notebook and started taking notes. And his friend went, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm making notes about my experiment." Well, it failed. It didn't work. And Edison said, well, it might not have worked as a light bulb, but if I ever want to make an explosion, I want to make sure I remember how to do it. So that's really embracing that presupposition. There isn't any such thing as failure, only feedback. Now, how do we install that as a strategy? So here's how I do it. So I've got a particular goal, I've got a particular outcome that I'm going for, and I get something other than the outcome that I want. And what I then do is I go, okay, so how did I create this? How did I create what I created instead of what I intended to create? What is there for me to learn from this? And what can I do differently next time so that next time I go for it, I'll get a different result? I'm just going to check to make sure that the video is actually going out. Because I've got my iPad here. Oh, yes, it is. Great. I just want to make sure I wasn't speaking into nowhere. That would have been great feedback for me. So that's how I integrate that. I go for a goal, I get something I didn't want. I go, okay, so how did I create getting something other than I wanted? What can I learn from this, and what can I do differently the next time I go for it? And then I go for it again, reset the goal, go for it again. That's how we integrate that particular presupposition behaviorally in the kind of things that we do. So then let's have a look at the second one. The second one is everyone is in charge of their mind and therefore their results. This is another way really of expressing cause and effect, if you like. What we're saying here is that even though people might not perceive that they do, in reality, they are actually in charge of their mind. And this is really where NLP scores. I think NLP is a phenomenal set of tools and techniques to enable somebody to get themselves on the cause side of the equation for what their mind is doing moment by moment. And as soon as we realize that we're in charge of our mind, that we can actually change what our mind is doing, then of course, therefore, we are then in charge of our results. Because if you think about it, everything in the room that you're sat in has been created twice. Once in somebody's mind, and also then once in physical reality. That, by the way, includes you. So once you're in charge of your mind and you can focus your mind, since we've also got, an NLP, not really an NLP presupposition, but this whole thing about, you get what you focus on, then provided you can be in charge of your mind and control your mind, you can control what you focus on, and therefore you can actually create what it is that you want in your physical reality. So again, a real powerful one for all areas of life, I think, as far as that's concerned. Now, resistance in a client is a sign of a lack of rapport. Let's talk about that one a little bit more. So, a lot of people in NLP would be thinking of that being like a coaching client or maybe a therapy client. I'm just looking at who we've got watching. Jackie, Claire's here too. Anne, already saw that you were here. So welcome everybody. So we're probably thinking that presupposition mainly in coaching and therapy, where what you've got there is you have the perception. So we need to bring in as well the perceptions projection frame that we talked about earlier. That you have the perception that a client is resisting the change processes that you're doing. They're resisting the process of NLP. They're resisting the process of hypnosis. They're resisting the process of timeline therapy, or resisting the process of mental emotional release, or resisting the process of, if we're doing our HUNA techniques. And again, putting ourselves on the cause side of the equation, a lot of people would go, well, the client's resisting me, that's not me, so therefore there's nothing that I can do about it. Hi, Monica. Got Monica here too. Thanks for joining us. There's nothing I can do about it. Whereas, when we use the presupposition resistance in a client is a sign of a lack of rapport, and we know rapport building techniques that we get from NLP, then it puts us on the cause side of the equation, because if there's resistance there, then it means, okay, what I need to do is I need to build more rapport with my client. You know when you've built enough rapport with your client when the resistance disappears. So again, it puts us on the cause side of the equation. We could also look at that in sales, for instance. So we've got a prospect who is resisting the sale. A lot of salespeople putting themselves at the effect of the client will go, okay, well, the client's resisting me. There's nothing I can do about it. But here we've got resistance in a prospect is a sign of a lack of rapport. And we're a salesperson that's got NLP rapport building techniques. Then we just take that result of resistance as feedback, build rapport with the client until we see the resistance melt away. We could also bring this in with one of the presuppositions we talked about last week, which was the law of requisite variety, and around the most flexible component of any system controls the system. If we brought this together, then what we'd have is there isn't any such thing as a resistant prospect, just inflexible salespeople. Think about that. That normally gets riles up quite a result with a bunch of salespeople. Or if you're training speakers, there's no such thing as a resistant audience, just inflexible presenters. If we looked at that in teaching, in education, in school, there's no such thing as an inflexible, resistant. There's no such thing as a resistant pupil. There's no such thing as a resistant student. Just inflexible teachers, inflexible lecturers. Increase your rapport, increase your flexibility in the way that you sell, in the way that you speak, in the way that you teach, and eventually you'll see that resistance melt away. Anna, hi Anna, thanks for joining us. So then we've got our final one. The meaning of communication is the response you get. Now, here's an interesting thing with this. What we're saying here is that it doesn't matter what you meant to say. It doesn't matter what you thought you said. It doesn't matter what you intended to say. What you actually communicated is the result that you get back from the person that you're communicating with. So if you said something, your intention was that the thing that you said was a compliment, but the person you said it to interpreted it as an insult, then you didn't actually communicate a compliment, you communicated an insult. So this is quite a different way of looking at communications than a lot of other communication systems. Let me show you another slide here. So in a lot of communication systems, what they say is that basically the communication is a 50-50 thing. 50% responsibility lies with you and 50% responsibility lies with the other person. But if you hold that belief, you'll never be able to successfully communicate what you mean more than 50% of the time. Because there'll always be 50% of the time where the person doesn't take the responsibility to receive your meaning. So again, what you're doing is 50% of the time you're saying I'm at course for my communication, 50% of the time I'm not. So it would mean that, half the people that you communicate with, half the times that you communicate, you'll fail with that communication. Of course, you would, holding on to this belief, be able to blame the other person for not getting what you were saying. But equally, you still haven't got the result that you wanted. Whereas what we're saying here is, in actual fact, if I show you a different slide, then what we're saying is that from the NLP presupposition, the meaning of communication is the response you get, then we as the communicator take 100% responsibility for our communication and give 0% of the responsibility to the client. This puts us on the course side of the equation for the communication. So, imagine that you had amazing sensory acuity so that you could see what your client was communicating back, the response your client was giving you back, even if they weren't saying anything. You could see it in their physiology, the way they stand, the way they breathe, their facial expressions, etc. You can hear it in their voice tonality if they are speaking, as well as hearing their words. So you're absolutely massively aware of the response that you're getting back from your client, as to whether it's the response you want or not. And you have infinite flexibility in the number of ways that you can communicate the same message. If we took time out of the equation, is there ever a time that you wouldn't be able to effectively communicate with anybody? because you would communicate it one way. You check what the response is from the client. If it's the response you want, fantastic, job done. If it's not the response you want, you communicate the same meaning, but you communicate it in a different way. Again, if you don't get the response you want, great, that's feedback. This is where these presuppositions of NLP tie together. So what you've got there is you communicated and you got feedback, and it wasn't the result that you wanted. So what you did was you integrated that feedback and you changed the way that you communicated it, and you did it again. Now, I said there, if we take time out of the equation, of course, if you are able to build an incredible amount of rapport with somebody, then, when you've got that level of rapport with somebody, they will stick around with you for long enough to be able to re-communicate the message the number of times that you need to be able to get the result you want. I mean, put that into coaching, put that into therapy, put that into sales, put that into presenting, speaking, and teaching. It means there would never be a time that you wouldn't be able to find a way of effectively communicating your message to somebody else and enable them and you to get the result that you want. So, excuse me whilst I just, I've got a little bit of, where am I going? Oh, that's where I want to go. Okay. You should be able to get me back to full screen. There I am. So there we go. That pretty much finishes our 4 Facebook Lives I think we've done on the presuppositions of NLP. I trust that you've enjoyed those. And, a great thing to do would be maybe to pick one presupposition a day and just use that as a filter for everything that goes on during the day to really integrate these things. But I think I mentioned in the first Facebook Live on the presuppositions was also test them out in challenging circumstances. I had to check them out on when Dunblane was happening, because I was teaching a practitioner training that happened that morning. Am I going to get questions about the presuppositions of NLP? Of course I am. If I can't make them fit, I'm not going to be able to explain them to the students, I'm not going to be able to teach it. I was teaching a HUNA training, on September the 11th, 2001. And again, I had to fit the presuppositions of NLP to all concerned in those events. I was teaching a practitioner training on the 7th of July, 2005. So again, am I going to get questions about the frames, cause and effect, results versus excuses, perception is projection, and the presuppositions of NLP around those events? Yeah, I am. Could you still get them today? Yeah, of course. They're big, life-changing events. So that's an interesting way of integrating those presuppositions. Here's an idea I've got. If there's any of the presuppositions that I've covered over the last 4 Facebook Lives that you're having a challenge fitting to certain situations and circumstances, or certain of these presuppositions that you just can't get your head around, please put a comment below this video. And what I'll do is I will answer it for you, giving you my take, obviously not just my model of the world, on how the particular presupposition that you're finding a challenge with fits with that situation, circumstance, or just in general. So we'll be picking a different theme, obviously, for next week's Facebook Live. It'll be, again, on Thursday at 1900 British Summer Time, which is 1800 UTC. It'll be right here on my page, but I'll put it on my wall and a number of different groups. If you want to find out more about the presuppositions and more about the NLP techniques that I've been talking about there in relationship to the presuppositions, then you can go to my app. You can get it here at davidshepard.com. There you go. And that's got the full practitioner training in there. So there's a whole CD on the presuppositions of NLP. There's a whole CD on rapport building. There's a whole CD on sensory acuity. There's a whole CD on language and all those kind of things. So if you want to go there and get that, download it. It's on me for a month, so you get to try it out, test it out, go through all the material that's in there, which you wouldn't have time to do in a month, to be honest with you. But you get that on me. If you then choose that you want to continue, then it's just $6.99 a month. I wanted to create the Netflix of NLP and personal development, and so there it is. It's available on davidshepard.com. And hi, Marilyn. Marilyn, I was covering the presuppositions of NLP. I'm just finishing, but the whole video will be up as soon as I finish this, so you can watch it all the way from from the beginning. Great to see you again, Marilyn. Marilyn is one of my students from a long time ago. She started very young. I'll say that now, because I think she started training with me about 15 years ago, something like that. Okay, guys, have a great morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you may be. Have a great week until I see you again next Thursday on my NLP Facebook Live.